Hey everybody, it's Wisp, and today I just want to talk about some of the holes that I've fallen into in life and the things I did to get out of them. It's natural, with life that you do stuff, you live your life, and over time you just find yourself falling into these holes. So, the first one I want to talk about is probably the first one that I can really remember finding myself in and realizing, like, yep, I am in a hole, and that was at the beach. So I'm at the beach with some friends, walking, and I start making eye contact with my friend, but like the sort of eye contact that as you're walking, I'm literally looking to the side and not at the path I'm walking. Next thing I know, I fall right into a manhole, and it hurt. It hurt, to be honest. I had literally no expectation this was happening. My friend was looking at me, so why I wasn't warned of this, I don't know. I'm not the tallest person, so if you're, especially when I was a kid, so if you're looking at me, you probably saw the hole on the ground in front of me, but that's okay. It happens. You live life, you fall into holes. So I'm sitting in that hole, and it's deep enough that I can barely reach outside of it, much less actually pull myself up. But that one was pretty easy. Sometimes you don't even have to pull yourself out of the holes. Actually, somebody found me and just lifted me right out. It's fair to say that in that specific instance, I really did get off easy. I I'm lucky, but that's not the only time that such a thing has happened to me. In fact, probably only a couple years later, I was walking on the sidewalk, and nowhere was there a sidewalk closed sign, but I'm walking alone, and since I'm bored, I'm on my phone looking for music to play. And none of the music that's on my phone sounds fun or appealing to me at all. So I'm skipping 90% of the songs as I'm going through and just looking at my playlists for literally anything to listen to. When all of a sudden, from the sidewalk, fall right into another hole. And I couldn't have predicted it. Like I said, no sidewalk closed sign. I didn't sue the city because it was a little bit petty. It'd be a little bit petty to sue the city, especially because by the time I made any motion on it, they would have put up a sidewalk closed sign and said I was wrong. So I mean, what would I stand to gain? But I'm sitting there, and a hole in the sidewalk, not even like knee deep. All that really happened was like I could have twisted my ankle, but I really didn't twist my ankle. So I'm completely fine. I just take a pretty wide step to get out of the hole, and that's sometimes the strategy. You just take a bigger step than usual and you're out of the hole that you fell into. Time goes on as it naturally does, and I'm out with some friends, and we go back to a beach. I'm kind of wading in shallow water. But as I am wading in the water is suddenly not that shallow. And all the sand beneath my feet was ripped out of me. I fell into an underwater hole. The waves were coming at me because I was a little deeper than I should have been, probably. So waves are just piling in on me. But I can hold my breath for a long time, and I'm a decent swimmer, so I got out of that one pretty easy. I think that's another strategy to get out of holes in your life, is to just start swimming and actively moving yourself from the hole, like remove yourself from the situation, and you're probably good. Like if you're literally in the underwater hole, just get out of it. Is my advice there. So the fourth out of fifth hole that I want to talk about today is just this time that I was cleaning my roof. I was cleaning the roof with a friend, and it was my dad's roof. It was super dusty because he had just moved into the house, and the person before him hadn't cleaned their own attic in probably at least a decade. Completely, just everything was caked in dust. I'm wearing like thick masks. Me and my friend are wearing thick masks to keep the dust out of our face, and still kind of struggling not to cough and choke. And there's those thin boards, I forget what they're called, but the thin boards that are between the main boards where you can actually. So there's a main board where you store stuff, and there's these thin boards that are there to keep the air from like kind of just popping out everywhere. They don't support anything, they're just there to keep it. It's basically so that you can say it's indoors, right? Like you don't touch that wall, it's not load bearing. That's what this is. And knowing that, I lay my foot over it, like lightly touching it. And I'm like, I'm not going to put any weight here. I'm just trying to move something and I can't have my foot in the way. Well, somehow I go from that to putting my entire body weight on that foot and I just pop straight out of that hole. Doing a full splits on the beam in my attic, and quick as I can, I just pull my leg out of it. That's a fairly easy hole to get out of if you don't fall through it. And that's another thing. It's important to try not to fall into the hole because that could have really injured me. Like there was a hole at that point in my attic, and it was sort of just avoid that at that point. And luckily, nothing happened that caused me to fall through the entire hole or anything like that. But a few years later, at this point, I'm like in my 20s, and actually, I was already in my 20s at that point. That's besides the point. So, I fell into another hole in life, and that is debt and financial crisis. So, I had money, I spent money, and I went to school. So I had like student debt, I have rent and other just things. But then I got a job that made me sad, so I quit my job, and then now I'm like, holy crap, I don't have any income. And now that might sound like I'm oversharing. I'm not looking for any pity because I am the one that left my job, right? But that's definitely a hole that I fell into in life, and my advice for anyone who finds themselves in that hole is to I'm still there.